Greg Pitzer, and during the meeting, will you tell us how many people are watching, just so we have a sense?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It says right there, actually.
It does on the.
If what I figured out, and Danny's one told me.
You're good.
We go into it, I thought.
Okay, we're live, Greg.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome to the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We want to let the public know that we are video recording tonight's public meeting. The recording is being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, and a link to the recording will be posted to the district's website after the conclusion of the meeting. So if you will join me, folks, in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll please rise and point to the virtual flag in your room. Ready? Begin. I pledge
Allegiance
To the flag,
flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. All right, reports of actions taken in closed session 6.0. During this evening's closed session meeting, the Board of Education made the following administrative appointments effective July 1, 2020. 1, Danny Hillman was appointed as Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations and Facilities. Jennifer, oh, good Lord. Hune,
Who now?
thank you. I apologize. Coordinator of Educational Services for STEM. Ashley Gutierrez, Coordinator of Educational Services for Equity. Jessica Colson, Coordinator of Educational Services Curriculum. The vote was unanimous, 5-0, no abstention. Okay, we're moving on to acceptance of minutes for April 3rd, 2020, 7.1. Do I hear a motion?
Approval. So moved.
There's a motion. There's a
Second.
second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
A motion carries unanimously. We're on to 8.0, agenda approval and consent. 8.1, acceptance of open session agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. 8.2, approval of consent agenda. Consent items are considered routine in nature and are approved by combining them into a single vote. A member of the board or a member of the public may request that a consent item be removed from the consent agenda to be considered and voted on separately. Okay, is there a motion on consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. There are none. And then, Mr. Mintz?
No, we don't have anything ratification of warrants on this agenda, so
you're
I'm
okay.
fine.
Okay. No, that's.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
All right, we're on to reports to the board. 9.1, Asia Pacific Heritage Month in May.
Yes. Yes, thank you, trustees. Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is celebrated annually in the United States during the month of May. In 1978, this joint resolution went into practice, proclaiming the first 10 days of May as Asian Pacific Heritage Week. In 1992, the month of May was officially designated as Asian Pacific Heritage Month by law. During this, we pay tribute to the contributions generations of Asian Pacific Americans have made to American history, society, and culture. This resolution also celebrates and honors Asian Pacific Americans as an integral part of the mosaic that defines America in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have 9.2, public comment for non-agenda items. Do we have any non-agenda item comments that have been submitted?
We do. I have 3.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is briefly summarize the 3 comments, and then the full written comments that were submitted by community members will be added to the record and be part of the official minutes. The first comment came from Helen of the Doherty Valley, and she suggested safety measures in related to COVID-19. Our second correspondence came from a student, William Dong, who has suggested some thoughts about getting back to in-person activities as soon as possible. And the third comment came from Robert Andrews, who had two topics within his single communication. One, suggestions about superintendent search, and the second, comments on a legal matter. Those communications also will be emailed in their entirety to all 5 trustees, and again, posted to the permanent record when we put the minutes up on the website.
Thank you so much. Just so people are aware, since public comments on non-agenda items, the law does not allow us to comment on items that are comments made by the public on non-agendized items. We're on to 9.3, Association President comments. I have 2 comments that have been submitted electronically. I'm going to read them as rapidly as I can. The first one is from Tammy Castellucci, who's president of CSEA, which is one of our classified employee unions. Hope everyone is doing well. I would like to congratulate Danny Hillman on his new appointment of Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations / Facilities. Now that we have moved into the second phase of online learning, we have included our paraeducators to assist their classroom teachers in online learning with our students. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of the classified employees that have been on the front lines working through this process the last almost 5 weeks and moving forward. Payroll, child nutrition, custodial. I would also like to thank our office staff for being patient with us as we process through what working from home looks like and what our priorities are. Business office is working through the process with us and getting creative. We are collaborating and working together since online learning is moving ahead. I think our site administrators should be in contact and checking in with their classified employees, seeing how they're doing and what their needs are doing are during this time. Just being available to have a conversation. Priority since the beginning was on online learning. Everyone has been in contact with their teachers to make sure they have everything they need to move ahead, or at least that their voice was being heard. Now we need to focus on all of the other classified employees that work with and for students every day. Set up a Google Hangout or a Zoom meeting with just your classified staff. We need to remember we are all in this together. One could not be successful without the other. Thank you, Cindy, for processing all of this with me and speaking on our behalf. We finally signed the COVID-19 MOU for our classified employees. We are pleased with the outcome and are working with management almost daily to work through ongoing concerns and issues. We realize how difficult this has been for management, our employees, students, and community at large. It is imperative, as we are still in shelter in place, that we not only worry about ourselves, but we help each other to get through this. Calling friends, going for walks, and being mindful of our own mental health, Zoom meetings with family, and helping those most vulnerable. We're certainly in unprecedented times, and I believe as a community, we will get through this together and stronger for it. We need to remember we are all part of the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. We are all affected by everything that is happening to this district. We need to continue working collaboratively and see the bigger picture. Stop being critical because we do not agree with something. Be part of the solution. Be a community coming together. We will all be different people when we are allowed to reach some form of normalcy. I hope the community is stronger because of it, and we continue to work together. I can only speak for myself. I will appreciate friends and family more and not just take them for granted. I will appreciate going into my office every day and interacting with my coworkers. I will continue to find ways to make a difference and to help pull our community and help our community grow. Thank you, SRVUSD, for collaborating and thinking outside the box. Thank you for putting our students first. I am truly happy to be part of such a great district. Thank you. So we have one other comment, and that is from our Servia, our teachers union president, Ann Katzberg. There is so much we don't know. We don't know how long we will be sheltering in place. We don't know what new direction we will get from CDE regarding distance learning, which SRVUSD refers to as remote learning. Our educators don't know what remote learning actually was until we were catapulted into this new way of teaching. In an ideal world, we would have been able to develop our craft over time, but we didn't have this luxury because none of us knew. We didn't know we would be leaving our classroom for the remainder of the year. We didn't know we wouldn't physically see our students, our colleagues, our teachers, our leaders, our mentors, our friends again before the end of the year. Our students didn't know, our parents didn't know. All of our worlds were rocked to their foundations. We discovered that we needed to plan for the unknown, and we immersed ourselves into learning what we could, preparing what we could, seeking guidance from whomever we could. We researched and we collaborated. Our TSAs and teachers stepped up, providing training and individual help that was invaluable. Our gratitude for them is heartfelt, and our appreciation for the leaders in our state is unlimited. Our governor closed our schools so we could be safe and save lives. Our governor protected our jobs so we could perform them to the best of our ability. We have a framework on the California Department of Education website stipulating that labor and management need to collaborate due to the myriad of challenges schools are facing across our state. Collaboration is essential to the health and well-being of our district. We know as a community that every voice matters. I often feel when I share the concerns of our members, it is considered my own personal opinion, a bias that Ann Katzberg is bringing forward. But this is folly. I am merely the voice of 1,700 members. I've worked tirelessly to make sure our members' voices are heard, and perhaps the voices of our members will resonate with you as you make decisions impacting our students. There is a lot we don't know about the challenges we're facing, but there is a lot we do know. We know our negotiations have benefited our students, and because we held strong, our students prevailed with lower class sizes, more services benefiting their health and well-being, and provisions making sure we could attract and retain the best educators. Our negotiations were not quote unquote ugly, but ultimately proved fruitful and beneficial to all in our district. The coronavirus has not made us more grateful for the profession we have devoted our lives to, but rather we are doing what we will always do our best to achieve, and that is fighting for our students. We know our addendum to the Memorandum of Understanding was an act of collaboration where both Servia and SRVUSD needed to address the questions we knew would surface as we began to unravel phase 2 of our remote learning plan. It took us 5 hours of negotiating after hours of working over the weekend to create the addendum, utilizing guidance from our state, our association, and other districts to come up with a solid addendum that supports our students. This is what successful collaboration looks like, and I am proud of our accomplishment. As always, we have more to accomplish in this evolving world of pandemics. The big issue of quote unquote grades looms large in parents and teachers' minds. The state has directed our secondary policy, but elementary grading standards remain nebulous. During the negotiations, I shared our members' concerns regarding elementary grading. Our knowledge is experiential. We know our students and parents. We understand their expectations. We changed the language from what was proposed during the negotiations so we could quote unquote live with the new grading policy. Our addendum states elementary TK5 students will be graded on the second semester report card, consistent with phase 2 of the remote learning plan. This language is left open to interpretation. I understand that. We all agreed that is left to the development of phase 2 of our remote learning plan. It was my understanding elementary grading would continue with the notations we currently use: 3, meeting standard; 2, working towards standard; and 1, needing more time. It was my understanding our educators using the resources provided in our hub would be able to use their discretion to grade the current work of our students. And then the communication to our parents read differently. It said, quote, remote learning during the 4th quarter will focus on new learning designed by each teacher. Secondary students will receive a pass or no mark, unquote. There is more focus given to determining grades for our secondary students, and I can only guess at the rationale for the effort from Ed Services as to why this is the case. As I reviewed the letter sent to our parent guardians on April 9th, I searched for an explanation on elementary grading, and it wasn't until I selected the link here that I found what I was looking for: grading of student learning. First bullet, elementary grading and report cards will essentially remain unchanged. Unchanged, question mark. How can this be, question mark? How can the grading policies for our elementary students remain unchanged? When I asked about this during our negotiations, I was given more clarity than this statement. You have told me, quote, words matter, unquote. I know this is true in this case because recently, despite our spring break, an abundance of concerns from SRVUSD members regarding elementary grading was shared with me. We know that what is communicated truly matters. We can't leave this unchanged. It is disingenuous. Our entire world has changed, and so has our students' access to our curriculum, to the changes we have on a daily basis, to the ongoing formative assessments we do minute by minute in our classrooms to determine the success of our lessons. We know that our success is our student success. In explaining the language of our addendum to our members, I shared that the curriculum would be created by them and they would use the standards to assess the current curriculum using during phase 2, not our regular standards reflected in our current report card. This is not possible for what I am hearing from our educators. We really aren't confident that work turned in is reflective of the students' true skill set or ability. Often parents assist and the work submitted displays this fact. On the other hand, some students have limited parental help, and this too is reflected in their work or lack of work. In addition, to assess to the current standards takes an inordinate amount of time. We don't have access to our students in a way that makes this assessment model effective or accurate. As a kindergarten teacher, I remembered how difficult it was to assess each student individually under regular times. Often I needed to pull kids out of daycare to make sure I could fit in every single student. Tonight, you will hear from some SRVUSD members. I have heard some of our principals are asking our members not to share with you their thoughts regarding elementary grading. As I already stated, sometimes my voice doesn't always resonate. My hope is that when you hear from the professional experts, you may understand the importance of communication from others and pride yourselves on being open to all data points in making decisions impacting our students. Speaking of data points, our current search for a new superintendent is soliciting input from a variety of our community's stakeholders. I want to thank Cindy Fisher for making it possible to have my entire executive board in attendance. I'm organizing my board to develop their thoughts so we are ready to share tomorrow our 20-minute meeting with the leadership search team. One of our math teachers in the district reached out to me and shared his data points. As you are well aware, data is especially vital in our mathematicians. This educator is asking that all candidates are put under a deep level of scrutiny prior to being considered, and all information beyond a resume should be investigated, including board minutes, newspaper articles, and other information that is public record. Additionally, money doesn't always buy quality. We understand it is important to recruit the best, but there are qualities inherent in true leadership that matter abundantly right now in our district, and some of these money simply cannot buy. We need a new superintendent who can face our challenges collaboratively and will always ensure our voices will be heard. We need a leader who will be able to facilitate processes that work through our stumbling blocks, our barriers, our differences of opinions, and create a community that thrives because we're all in this together. We don't know who our next superintendent will be, but we do know what we need. SRVUSD leadership is hopeful. We know our students deserve nothing less. Ultimately, it is your decision on who we bring into our district. You are the ones that make the final decisions for our students, but your constituents' viewpoints must be heard and truly considered. So with that, that is the end of the association president's comments. There are comments that were made here from Ms. Katzberg that I'll touch on an item coming on 10.2. So I'm going to let staff, if they want to talk about it at 10.2, they can in terms of response or feedback on that. On the comments that were made by Ms. Katzberg on superintendent search, rest assured that the company that we've hired, Leadership Associates, does a thorough background check. Maybe not to the DNA level, but about as close as you're going to get. So they do a phenomenal job. And it's more than just, the resume looks good. Trust me, they do a deep background check. All right, we're moving on to 10.0. We're on action items, public hearing. We're now on 10.1, consideration of approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Keith.
Thank you, President Marvel. So San Ramon Valley and virtually all districts in the state are required to have a board-approved declaration of need on file with the local county office of education and the Commission on Teacher Credentialing in order to hire any teachers on any kind of emergency credential or permit. This is an annual action that we ask boards to take. It has to be approved as an action item, and it needs to be completed by June 30th of a given school year for the upcoming school year. I do want to point out that the numbers that are included in our declaration of need far exceed the number of teachers that we anticipate hiring or needing to hire on an emergency permit next year. Those numbers I consider, and I encourage you to consider, high maximums. As a rule, school districts generally tend to aim high on their declarations because if they underestimate their need, they have to delay the hiring of a teacher under an emergency permit until an amended declaration can be approved and filed. We want, of course, to avoid all delays in hiring teachers when we need to hire teachers. And we also want to avoid the need having to bring an amended declaration to you. All of that said, the important takeaway in terms of the comments that I'm making to you is that the district anticipates hiring many less teachers on emergency permits than the numbers on that declaration will indicate. And that bears true basically in San Ramon Valley year after year. Please also keep in mind that the district only hires teachers on emergency permits after a thorough and a diligent search for a fully credentialed a teacher has occurred. I want you to be assured of that. We're obligated by law to do that, and it is the right thing to do. So with that and those comments, I ask that you please take action this evening to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators as presented to you.
Got it. Before I ask for a motion, Cindy, do we have any comments submitted on 10-1?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Motion from Rachel.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Ken Mintz
Second.
has seconded. Any comments, questions?
Just a comment, Keith, great explanation of this topic. I really appreciate you going in depth like that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mark.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, 10.2, consideration of approval of resolution 76/19-20 regarding modified instructional grading and reporting requirements during spring 2020. Before we get into this, do we have any comments from the public that we need to have summarized?
Yes, we do, President Marvel. We have 20 comments that were submitted by San Ramon Valley Unified School District elementary teachers regarding the elementary school grading. All the written correspondence were forwarded to you, the board members, to read prior to this meeting, and will be added to the permanent record via the minutes and shared in full with the trustees. And the comments came in from a number of teachers, all of which I will name: Elizabeth Howell, Joanne Gura, Gina Long, Lindsay Gilbert, Rachel Chandramuli, Jordan Cummings, Elizabeth Acombe, Colette Blessum, Catherine Rubin, Julie Wolters, Jennifer Wong, Deborah Haleworth, Nancy McCall, Andrea Fettig, Karen Lepke, Tracy Tierney, Paula Ty, Marcia Gaddis, and Sarah Wetherell.
Okay, and what is the summary of the comments?
A summary of the comments are in regards to elementary grading and concerns around elementary assessment during this pandemic and the teacher's ability to be able to conduct assessments one-to-one, primarily in the elementary grades, in addition to equitable access, that all students will maybe not necessarily have equitable access given the constraints of their families and the dynamics of their home. And the third constraint that many of them are expressing are the inability to grade on a standard 1, 2, 3, and would like the opportunity to grade on an alternative means, possibly examining other verbiage on a report card or having conversations with teachers around that prior to moving forward.
Got it. Okay, So with that, let's hear staff's presentation on 10.2.
All right, so our resolution is in response to the modifying of the instructional grading and reporting requirements during spring of 2020. And our resolution is really in response to three major points to be aligned with different areas of our region. One, we are trying to stay aligned with other high-performing districts like us throughout the region with regards to grading. We are also filing guidelines and recommendations that have come to us from the CDE, along with assurances from the University of California and California State University systems. Also, this grading resolution is in alignment with the exact verbiage that is in our current memorandum of understanding with SRVUSD, our teachers union, and we continue to collaborate with them along those lines. That kind of summarizes elementary currently reads students in TK through grading for semester 2 will continue unchanged. Teacher will proceed with grading through phase 2 of the remote learning continuity plan. Secondary students in middle and high school will shift to a pass no mark grading reporting system for the 4th quarter and 2nd semester grades.
Okay. Any other comments from staff?
No.
Okay, all right. Comments from board members? Anybody?
First question I have is how do we address the concerns we heard in the elementary grading resolution?
Absolutely, and thank you, Trustee Jewett. We are working very closely with our elementary teachers and with our executive director, Nadine Rosenzweig, who is currently, since these comments have come in, not only responded to every single one of these teachers, but is putting a plan together to collaboratively come together to discuss some of the larger topics, utilizing the current verbiage that is on our current report card to be able to meet the needs of both our teachers and our students.
Okay. Any other comments from board members?
So Christine, do you feel confident that the concerns that the teachers have expressed, and they expressed different concerns throughout the 20 different comments, that the work that Nadine is doing with those teachers and looking at the report card can satisfy their needs?
Absolutely. I'm happy to report that several of the teachers that actually submitted comments are part of that committee, and the good work that Nadine and our Ed Services team has really drawn together within the last 24 hours in response to many of these teachers' concerns. In addition, we have our SRVUSD president on that and our director of curriculum, and I'm absolutely confident that with teacher feedback and input, we are going to be able to resolve this within the next week or so. Absolutely.
Okay, so to reiterate, it is Ed Services' intent to be flexible and to work with it and to meet those needs. It's not just the letter of the sentences about will go unchanged. It's within the flexibility of the current report card that you'll be working with them.
Absolutely, and we do have that ability given that is a standards-based report card, and teacher discretion, assessment, formative, informative, can all be a part of that, that discussion with the existing verbiage that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, Susanna, Ken?
Yeah, just real quick. I just want to thank everyone, Christine and her staff, the others who have worked so hard on this, because once again, this is something that a month and a half ago, no one would have anticipated the need for this type of change. And here we are moving into phase 2 and trying to do the best we can to meet the needs of our students in terms of, moving their education forward, but doing so with a lot of compassion and understanding to our educators and everything that they go through in their personal life, as well as trying to do the best for their students. And so I understand that the grading is an emotional topic for teachers and families, particularly in our district, with the emphasis that's placed on academics and the concern that many will have. But I believe that by working together collaboratively, which was stated both by Christine as well as by Anne in her comments, I think we can get through this. And I think we can get through it in such a way that we can continue to prove ourselves to be one of the best school districts in the state. through the information we received from Christine, it was clear that there's a number of districts around us that actually want to see our plans and understand what we're doing so that they can incorporate those things into their steps moving forward as well. So I just want to send my thanks to all the efforts that's going into this next phase.
Thank you.
Susanna?
Yeah, I'm same. I really appreciate all the work that you've done in supporting, our families, our students, and our teachers and staff. Because again, the remote learning plan, the new one is going forward now is very robust. And I also appreciate that, you're looking to the broader, for the secondary, reaching out to different universities and colleges on, how they're going to respond to our students who are, working the hardest at trying to get there. And then this happened, right? So, but I think this is, all the work that you've done will, will be not only equitable, but I think it's, it's going to be a good step towards all our kids advancing to the next level.
Mark, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have fully addressed concerns from our community around the high school grading. And I understand where we're coming from as a district in terms of equity for kids, all kids, fully understand it. Understand challenges with grade assessments in an online new frontier environment, fully understand it. Understand that some kids may not have the appropriate infrastructure at home, fully understand it. Understand that there's going to be instances of how do we deal with academic dishonesty, some of the issues that were raised in the elementary school level. I get that. Put it all in a bag and pass no grade, pass no mark makes a whole lot of sense. But I want to make sure that we fully thought through the comments around kids, especially our juniors in high school, who are arguably in one of their most important academic semesters of their entire academic career, arguably, that they want the letter grades because they're feeling like they may be disadvantaged. I understand UC has come out with certain language. I'm going to read from a letter directly from the University of California under fall 2021 admissions. For admission purposes, UC will continue to calculate a GPA using all A through G courses completed with letter grades in grades 10 and 11, including summer terms following grades 9, 10, and 11. Courses completed with pass or credit grades in winter, spring, summer of 2020 will not be used in the GPA calculation, but will meet the A through G subject area requirements. No student will be penalized in the campus admission review process for earning pass grades in A through G coursework. What that tells me is students won't be penalized, but if some students receive grades in this semester, especially weighted grades, while other students get pass, no pass, there's going to be a disparity in GPAs that are going to be on transcripts going to the UC system. I want to make sure that we fully thought through the very important question in my mind: are we setting up kids to be disadvantaged when they're applying to colleges next year?
Yeah, again, I don't think so. And I work pretty closely with colleges, college admission officers, and the deans of college admissions. And of course, I can't say 100% of all like 3,000 colleges and universities are doing exactly the same thing. But basically they're, they are all coming and say, this will not penalize students. Now, again, I think with the grade, they're not going to calculate, right? Calculate GPA on the spring semester. So they're not adding that in. And just to let you know, I think that I have to say, except for Cal State University and some of the state universities that are on the, just really like sliding scale formula of college admissions. I don't want to get too complicated, but UCs have a comprehensive review. They look at 14 factors of an application before they actually decide. So it's 14. So grades and test scores, they're also going test optional, right? A lot of schools are. Grades, test scores, and like a dozen other factors before they do this. And this is the same goes to for a lot of private and highly selective colleges who does what they call holistic review, which is kind of similar. It's the same thing as comprehensive review that the UCs are looking at. So I think that, again, taking in context, that a GPA for one semester or quarter, whatever, semester is not going to affect a student's ability to get into college or university, UCs, that greatly, because they know how to the college and universities know how to review, with some of the missing information.
Every high school also has a profile that those universities keep. So they know the kind of quality of students that are coming out of a particular high school, and so there's a factor that has to go into that as well, and they've also indicated very clearly some of the privates as well, Stanford, the Princetons, the Harvards, they've all said pretty much the same thing. You're not going to be penalized if you have a pass, no mark on your equivalent A through G. So I don't know, given the situation that we're in, I don't know how we can, I'm not sure, do we solve one particular student's issue and therefore hurt dozens or scores of others?
I don't see how we're hurting dozens or scores of others. How are we hurting by offering optionality for grades at the high school level? If, as we've just said, if you get a pass or mark, you're going to be held harmless. But for the kids who want the GPA boost, that letter clearly says the grade letter is going to be factored into the GPA.
So my understanding, and staff, you need to help me out on this. My understanding is we have to be one or the other. If we're grade and we don't have, if we offer grades, then that's going to be put into our high school's characteristics that the university looks at.
So I'm not familiar with any districts who have provided options. Some universities started with that approach. I'm not aware of any high schools who've given kids options. It seems to be most are aligned with the credit no marks. Some have elected to give certain types of grades, A, B's, and C's only, improved grades only, can't decrease grades. I'm not familiar with a district who's allowed students to opt into a formal grade or an optional pass, fail, or pass no mark. So I'm not familiar with any districts who've done that, and we've done significant outreach in that regard, mostly focusing on suburban districts that generally are high-performing districts that's many students off to universities with each graduating class.
Hey, Rick, what do you see the challenges with optionality?
Yeah, so for me, I think what it does is it may pit one student against another. It may add to stress where students feel an expectation, whether it would be institutionally, university expectation, possibly family expectation, to opt into grade to be more competitive in an already very stressful environment, especially for our juniors. So I see the mental health piece being significant there, and kids already in our community are hyper competitive as they look to university options and post-high school opportunity. I just see this just adding another level of kids comparing themselves to each other. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one thing that I would say on this topic, given the governor's remarks in the last 24 hours about the kinds of things that need to be in place for us to get back to some level of normal, it's going to take some period of time. And staff is going to have to look at even the possibility, hopefully as remote as it might be, of having to do something other than the old normal when it comes to fall semester. And it may very well be that in the fall, we're going to have to consider, how grading is going to look. That might be different than this phase 2 closeout of this school year. So in my mind, this is something that's being put in place now. And we're going to have to look at this again for the new fall semester, depending upon what kind of circumstance we're facing at that point. I'm sure the college is going to be looking at it, other school districts, and probably across the state, we're going to have to consider how assessment's going to be carried forward. But I look at that as being a future question based upon, what happens with the entire environment after this period.
President Marvel, may I add another thought that may kind of make sense here in this conversation?
Yes, please.
It's in regards to high school grades specifically, and why I believe they're different than, say, elementary grades, and why we're kind of staying more with status quo in elementary, is that elementary and middle school grades, while very important, are mostly designed for feedback and opportunities for students and parents to get ongoing feedback. The record, although it is considered permanent, doesn't really dictate what happens next in their life. You get a fresh start. The high school record, in fact, is permanent and later becomes part of a package for admissions, grades being one of many 10 plus categories that students are assessed on and evaluated as they look to college opportunity. So I think the idea that the unusual circumstances we all find ourselves in, and that the incredibly uneven field and the work that we've asked our amazing teachers to do at the high school level, more than at the middle and elementary level, I believe academic honesty and dishonesty is a key piece, which would nearly be impossible for our teachers to navigate and to handle on if in fact the work students submit, and if in fact those grades counted, how do we know it was really their work?
Good point. Yeah, that follows them the rest of their life. Right, it has an impact, massive impact. Any other questions or comments? Folks, all right, I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I need a wait a minute, we've lost.
We're working on it.
Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to take a vote yet because we've lost Rachel.
Oh, we lost Rachel.
We dropped her. We're just working on it right now.
Okay, so we'll hold off. Could somebody play the Jeopardy tune, please? No? Somebody hum the Jeopardy tune? No? All right. I tried. So can she call in if necessary?
Yes, we've given her all the information. We're working with her right now via text.
Okay, okay.
Only because you asked, Greg.
Let's try phone.
Oh, you found it.
Thank you. Perfect. Perfect. I'm betting 4,000 on the daily double. We still don't have her.
I'm gonna get her to be able to call in on the phone. She's having issues
Internet.
with the internet right now.
Got it. Yeah, she calls in on the phone and then goes speaker, then puts it by the microphone for the meeting, then we should be able to hear her just fine, and so will the audience.
Yes, exactly. So you've given her the phone number and code to dial in with.
Do you need her number? I have it if you need it.
We have it here. She's
Okay,
been
good.
texting back and forth with us.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Mark, are you eating peasant the pear?
I couldn't help myself.
Some of the restaurants have some great specials they're running here in the Valley. You get people to do takeout. Pretty phenomenal.
Just a quick story as we wait. We went for takeout on Saturday afternoon down to a Danville restaurant, and it is just sad. Sad. I don't have a better word for it. Drive through downtown Danville on a Saturday afternoon and just see closed shops, closed restaurants everywhere. It really inspired me to do takeout as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. Besides the fact that you don't have to cook.
And
That's other advantages. Yeah, we're helping our local small businesses and our service workers to help them out during this pandemic as well. Do what we can.
And I heard that you can actually, well, I think that Danville, I'm not sure the Danville Farmers Market, but supposedly the Santa Ramon Farmers Market, the one, you know, over at the city center, I think on Wednesday, tomorrow, I think you're supposed to be able to order online and then can go like, you know, bring a car around. They don't deliver, but you have to go over and they just like kind of a drive-through type thing, and they'll just kind of come out with your order.
There you go.
So I'm going to try and check it out.
I know somebody else picking my fresh fruit from a pile. I know I like to do it myself, but that's just me.
Well, you can't be touching all
No.
the vegetables now. That's a no-no right now.
No, but you know, there's a stack of 100 plums in a pile. You don't touch all 100 plums, right? That's a no-no. You're right.
That's a no-no.
Maybe we need to move on.
Okay, are we giving up on Rachel?
She's not communicating with us via text at the moment.
She is not?
She is not.
Okay.
So this is okay for public. So Cindy, what are her issues? Local Wi-Fi issues?
She's having an internet issue, she said.
And so now she's not able even to get cell service for a call in?
I don't know. She's not texting at the moment.
Okay. President Marvel, I'm not sure how you'd like to proceed.
I think we need to move on. It's just, I think we have to treat it like a regular board meeting and a board member has to leave. So we still have a quorum, we move on. I guess I tried, but I think we have to move on. So do we had a motion on 10-2?
Yeah, I moved.
Yeah, you moved, and who seconded? Did
I'll second.
okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, so on 10.2, a call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Can we
Okay.
clarify if Mark's still with us or not?
He is, he's right there.
I don't see him.
He's there. He came up. He's there, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we're moving on to 10.3.
He did say
Consideration of
that.
approval of resolution 75/19-20, specifically designating public works projects as essential government functions. Mr. Hillman.
Yeah,
Thank you.
first, congratulations, Mr. Hillman.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So just a little backstory on this resolution. What this is really designed to do is to give maximum amount of flexibility to the facilities department staff to tackle these projects from now through the summer. This is our original summer project list that some of the items are out to bid already. Some have already returned with bids. And really what we're trying to do here is, given the moving nature of this particular event that we're experiencing, we don't want it to hamper or hinder projects. All of the projects need to get done. They are all essential because they need to be completed when students are not on the campus. We have a little bit more of a window to do that, but we also have more and new requirements, as we're all aware of, around social distancing, et cetera, that contractors will have to abide by. And if we can start some of these projects now and also do the timeline through the summer, it will ensure that we get everything done before students return back. We will assume at this point that they'll be back in August for the purposes of these projects. Obviously, if that gets extended by the county for any other reason, it's just more time. The one other thing I would like to say about this resolution is that it's not intended that we would run out and do all of these projects in the month or start them in the month of April, which would obviously put, I think, more people at risk. This is the highest, I don't know if it's the right term, but the highest density of sickness that they're worried about at the county level. And we're not suggesting we go out and start all these things this month. This resolution just gives us the flexibility to start things when they needed to be started, regardless of what the county is doing, that we get it done before kids come back.
Got it. Do we have any, Cindy, do we have any comment cards on 10.3?
We do not.
Okay. All right, board members, comments, questions?
Yeah, two questions, Danny. First, do we have any work going on, essential work going on at the schools right now?
Yes, we do. We had a little bit of excavation and trenching work going on at one campus that's undergoing a modernization. And that work was to be taking place during spring break. And so that went on as planned. And so with some of the orders, the work has slowed down because we know the kids are coming back now and we're able to implement the social distancing. But there's some of those things that you've got ground open, need to cover it back up and get it re-asphalt and things like that. So some of those things are happening now.
Okay, good. And I appreciate the social distancing being taken into account. The other question I have, though, is as you talk about work that's not going on right now, but for future work, for summer work, what's the bidding environment like? Any idea under the current situation?
A few things here and there, nothing really concrete. We did have a bid opening today, but what we're starting to hear is because of the county orders, a lot of private construction projects are drying up, and anything that was being performed, they are finishing or being told don't come back. And so what that's doing is that certain contractors, it's pushing them to try to chase public bids potentially if they're well suited to do that. We all know there's some additional logistical things that contractors have to do to be competitive in a public bidding sector. But they're starting to move that direction, which will actually only help the district because it just means more competition. They'll start sharpening their pencils and kind of lowering numbers in order to keep their crews working, even if it's at a reduced days of the week or reduced hours. Something's better than nothing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Law of supply and demand. Any other comments, questions? I think that was Rachel.
No. I believe Rachel has joined us by phone. Rachel, can you confirm?
Confirmed. My internet just disappeared.
I'm sorry. So, all right. So do you have any comments, Rachel, on this item? We're on.
No, I missed the whole item, so go ahead.
Oh, this is the resolution on designating public works projects as essential government functions. So,
No, I don't have any comments.
okay. All right. Any further comments? Hearing
I'll
none.
go,
I need
I'll
a
go ahead and move. I'll go ahead and move this motion.
Ken is the motion, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Mark is the second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. We're on 10.4, consultation review and recommendations for district coronavirus response.
Okay, President Marvel, before I get into 10.4 and the staff's recommendation, would it be okay to consider taking another vote back on 10.2? Trustee Hurd participated in the full conversation, and we didn't lose her until right before we were calling for the question.
Right.
So if President Marvel, you would see that as a way to get a full vote, I believe that would be legal.
I think that would be fair. Is that okay with you, Rachel, to participate in 10.2?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to revote on 10.2. There was a motion and a second already made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. And thanks for being flexible with us, Rachel, and I'm glad you're back. So for the third time in the last month, I am going to recommend that you extend our closure of traditional in-person teaching, learning, and activities through the end of the scheduled school year, Friday, May 29, 2020, based on direction from the 6 Bay Area public health officers and the directors, being aligned with all of the school districts in those 6 counties. What I'd also like to mention is that we are working with our community, with our educators, with our parent leaders, with our students, and we will begin to engage on opportunities and suggestions on how best to celebrate our students through this spring, because we will not be able to have traditional promotions, traditional awards ceremonies, traditional graduations, and senior trips and 8th grade trips and all the like. And that is true in nearly every school district in California. So we're going to engage our community very soon next week and have some open forum to participate with our community, to look for suggestions on how best to take care of students and staff over the next couple months. So with that, my recommendation is that the board acts to formally close any physically present student activities, including instruction, extra activities, athletics, etc., through the end of the school year, May 29, 2020.
Okay, any comment cards on this item?
No.
No comments submitted. All right, is there a motion and a second?
I'll move.
Okay. Motion and a second. So Mark was the motion, Susanna seconded. Any comments or questions from board member?
Just to make it crystal clear, this is not a cancellation of graduation promotion ceremonies. It's a rethinking how we're going to do this, given the extraordinary environment we're in. Putting hundreds, if not thousands of people in a football stadium on May 29th, June 1st is not going to happen in the state of California. That's my opinion. So we have to move to figure out creative alternatives. District staff is working on it. We'll be able to communicate it soon.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Rachel, we don't see you, so I'm going to ask you.
Mark, I'd just like to thank you for that clarification. That's exactly how I would have stated it too. So thank you.
Good. All right. Any further comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. And we are on 13.1 board member reports. Anybody have any board member reports? We normally start with you, Rachel, because you're at the end.
Excuse me.
Hey, Greg, we have another item first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we? Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. It was on the bottom of the page and I missed it. 11.1 preliminary 2020 2021 budget assumptions. Sorry, guys. Okay.
No worries. Thank you, President Marble, and thank you, trustees. We're bringing this as a discussion information item tonight, just to continue the conversation that really occurs kind of permanently for San Ramon Valley Unified School District. We're always looking for the best data, the best information. And so, and thank you, Mr. Pitzer. I think Mr. Pitzer is going to integrate this presentation into the YouTube feed. So we wanted to talk about kind of a big three discussion areas tonight. We see them as enrollment, revenues, and then core multi-year projection assumptions. So in terms of enrollment, the slide number 2, we wanted to remind the board and the public that the district, the 2019-20 school year has been the third fiscal year for the school district of declining enrollment, real and actual declining enrollment. So prior to all of the coronavirus, COVID-19 potential complications, the district was already in a projected state of decline. And we're obviously working with the latest data we have on top of the demographics report to try to estimate what that decline might be. But the state of California and many experts in Sacramento have put all school districts on notice that there is a belief that on top of whatever data districts had, there may likely be a decline, a further decline in the state, maybe as high as 5% on top of assumptions. So on 30,000 students, 5% would be another 1,500. We're not suggesting that as the current path of action now, but we wanted to put it into everyone's mind and realize that between now and December 2020, when we present our first interim report, we will have a lot more data about next year's enrollment. And so we want to place that thought in everyone's mind now that it may be that there is a significant decline in enrollment beyond what the demographers were projecting prior to these COVID-19 times. And so, and we're here to hear the board's feedback on this first topic of enrollment. And we can address it all at the end too. I apologize. We'll keep going. So the next major area we believe is highly relevant is, of course, revenues at the state level. So slide 3 has what is startling, but a very real example of current Dow Jones Industrial Average movements in 2019 and 2020 mirrored up against Dow Industrial movements in the depression from 1928 to 1932. Call it random or call it possibly relevant, but the data doesn't lie, and the data is eerily similar to the real Great Depression. And so, as we know, one of California's biggest drivers of personal income tax is capital gains. And there are a lot of experts out there who believe that, and data already is beginning to show that California revenues are going to be very affected by this. And in fact, on slide 4, we have a couple of quotes from some major players, but the Department of Finance is on record last week actually saying that of the data that they have now available to them, the data is quote unquote very, very negative. So I'm not quite sure if there's a way to say negative any harsher than that, but it's very real. And then the UCLA School of Business, the Anderson School of Business has a very well-respected economic forecast that is very much modeling that the state of California may have a 50 billion with a B, 50 billion tax revenue hit over the next 2 fiscal years. And as a reminder, I think we've all talked in the past about California having
by many measures, a plus or minus $30 billion reserve right now. But I know we all pride ourselves on being pretty good at math, and plus 30 minus 50 is definitely an issue that results in a negative amount of revenue compared to where we thought we were even a few months ago. So Sacramento and the state of California has a lot of challenges in front of it. And I think that all school districts, not just San Ramon Valley Unified, are going to have to be prepared for some very creative and difficult scenarios in the 2021 fiscal year and likely beyond. And we may have a little bit of a feed delay, so our apologies. In terms of the third topic for tonight, and I did not mention it earlier, but this will be a topic that we bring back again, as well as in June for information, all of the budget assumptions and the best data we have. So in terms of multi-year assumptions, the big four assumptions related to turn the page costs are always step and column, health and welfare, many of our kind of restricted programs, including special education, and in particular of our big four, STRS and PERS, the actual trusts themselves are very highly dependent on the stock market and performance of kind of investment grade assets. So, and exactly as what was explained earlier, and just generally going on with the economy, the current economic conditions are not good for the returns of both STRS and PERS and the billions that both pension funds invest on behalf of millions of current employees and retirees. So, continued rises in STRS and PERS costs are as likely as they have ever been. And again, a very challenged economy is not good for STRS and PERS returns. Enrollment is, of course, also on this list. COLAs are also on this list. There is already talk of potential kind of recognizing a COLA and then Sacramento not funding it. That would be back to the kind of Great Recession days of 08, 09 through kind of that 11, 12, 13 zone. So again, not a good scenario. And finally, one-time dollars that were envisioned by the governor as recently as his January projections for 2021. There's a lot of discussion from experts in Sacramento that any one-time dollars that would or could have been earmarked, number one, even if they were to continue to exist is an open question, but even if they did exist, what might have been earmarked for education now may have to be earmarked for COVID-19 related relief. So again, lots to consider. We're always taking into account the greatest and best data we have, and we want to make sure that we continue to hear the board's feedback. Immediate next steps wise, obviously, we'll continue to update the board and receive feedback between now and June when we adopt our budget. We're working with the technology team and their great knowledge of YouTube and videos to start a series of virtual budget road shows on these various topics. We're envisioning little vignettes, of the 5 to 10 minute zone, and by particular topics. If people want to watch all of them, they're welcome to. If they want to watch just one or two, they're welcome to as well. Of course, the May governor revise will be very important. San Ramon's own adopted budget will be important. And ultimately, California's adopted budget will drive everything. And we'll come back in August with our 45-day revise to kind of true up to what Sacramento actually adopts. So again, thank you for the window tonight, and we're highly interested in the board's feedback on assumptions for 2021.
Okay, so with that depressing news, any questions or comments from board members? Mark.
Just quick comment, question, Greg. With the economic downturn that is certainly to come through the summer months, are there any projections or any advisory consultations that you've received on how we should think about funding SRVUSD next year?
We're actually in weekly conversations with the County Office of Education. Danny and I are both joining a conversation with all the CBOs and certainly Deputy Superintendent Bill Clark. The collective county agencies that go by a few acronyms, one of them is BASC and one of them is CSESA. They're working on kind of collective guidance. The short answer is there's no real answer yet. I think the big data point, next solid data point, will be the governor's May revise. There are certainly some whisper numbers out there that not only might 2021 be flat funded to 1920, but there are some that are beginning to suggest entertaining scenarios of funding 5, 10, and even 15%, 15% less than 1920. So that would be at our scale, 15% of a north of $300 million budget, well north, $360 million plus budget is a $5 million number. So some of the numbers are really startling, and comparatively, San Ramon continues to be in a better place than many of the top 25 districts in the state of California. And so we'll continue to face whatever challenge and we'll be ready for it as much as we can.
So given that 90% of our budget is people, a $50 million cut, right?
Yes.
Potentially, and that's a rough number. The answer is it can't happen. We don't have the, unless the state changes the law, we would not have the flexibility to cut 50 million out of the budget. I understand the need. You can't spend money which you do not have. Unlike the federal government, we can't print our own $20 bills on our local copy machine. But my point is, $50 million is an untenable number that we can't cut. Not without major freeing up of restrictions that the Ed Code has placed on us in terms of timelines.
Well, and again, it's us and over 1,000 other school districts in the state. So it's absolutely not going to be something unique to San Ramon. We believe that we continue to have some strategies, including things like ordering freezes. I mean, literally in our business department and our service center department, hiring freezes in HR for only the most absolute kind of difficult to fill kind of positions. But correct, at its core, all 1,000 school districts would face almost an insurmountable scenario if Sacramento cut drastically 90 days from now. Now, that said, in the Great Recession of recent vintage, basically within the last 15 years, there were scenarios where all 1,000 districts found a way to pivot and adjust, and San Ramon Valley Unified at that time wasn't unique among them. So we'll continue to be ready and nimble as possible, and we have a great team in place to do so.
What we had at the start of the recession was a financial structure in which the state covered our costs related to our pensions. The formula has been changed and we're no longer covered. We're no longer held harmless. That is now our obligation at the local level. And the pensions that cost when this recession started in 08, 09 are massively higher today than they were when it was the state's obligation. When they saw it coming, they put the obligation on us and then didn't give us the money to cover that obligation. So how much more are we shelling out between PERS and STIRS that we weren't shelling out in 08, 09? Close to 50 million, isn't it?
Tens of millions, correct. And well in excess of 100% greater contributions to both systems than those days.
So I just want to point out that we managed to get through the Great Recession. None of us were unscathed, but we were in a much better position then than we are today, primarily because of the massive pension costs that the state didn't handle for 30 plus years. And when they finally woke up, they gave it to us to handle and didn't give us the resources in terms of a revenue stream to cover it. So I'm not saying we just ignore it. We can't. But what is dramatically different from in this, what I think is going to be another recession, is we now have an obligation for scores of millions of dollars of pension costs that weren't our problem in 08, 09.
I think one of the things that, if I can speak up, one of the things that I would add, particularly for anyone who's listening to our conversation now or it's recorded, up until about 6 weeks ago, the economy in California was actually running very strong. However, one of the outliers of that was education. And the extent to which we, in 90%, just throw a high figure out there, of other school districts around the state were deficit spending with structural deficits. So we were already in a challenging position, even with what I believe is a very, very strong, financially prudent school district. And that was before all this hit. Greg, you just mentioned about recession. Greg Medici, in your PowerPoint presentation, you showed a chart of the Dow dropping in the 1920s into the 32. One of the things that I've heard was, the possibility that because of the strength of the economy going into this, it may very well be, even in recessionary times, more of the V-shaped type of drop and then return. So not sitting down at a low level for a very long time. And I think we're already seeing some things with the up and down nature of the Dow. However, given where we were as a school district and as a school institution in California prior to this, and I think part of it gets back to Greg Marvel's comments about pension costs, we were already having to dig out. And it's going to be just that much more difficult for us in the school community, given the other areas that are going to be finding funding from the state and federal government to be able to dig our way out of this. Even if we do see the Dow and industry being able to jump up relatively quickly, kind of hope that would be the case for everything else. But for us, I think we've got a challenging road ahead. And I appreciate the work that Greg Medici and his team are doing to continue to keep an eye on that and try to figure out ways for us to move this forward without collapsing in the process.
Yep. Any other comments? This is not an action item. This is just comments to give back to the staff as they prepare their budget assumptions. Any comment, Susanna, anything? Rachel?
Yeah, no, just, thanks to Greg and his team for, keeping on track, because this has moved so quickly, right? Just like Ken had said that we were looking at the budget and was kind of a little bit worried about declining enrollment. Well, okay, big worry. And the structural deficit and things like that. And we were looking, and then we were hoping, right, to have some working with our, maybe our parent groups and our employee groups to do something locally, or to go up to the state to do something with regards to just public education funding. But now it's, the whole landscape's changed, and it's with regards to finances, it's just a little depressing. And it's, thank you for your team for keeping up, and I'll be very interested, I'm sure we all will, about the May revise.
Two other factors that we have to also bring in to the people that are listening as well. When the recession started 08, 09 area, our district was in an increasing enrollment situation. So we were getting the growth dividend that came. So we would get a new student, the cost of that new student generally was less than the money we got from the state. So we got a dividend. So we had money coming in that we could help cover some of the losses as the state was cutting us during the recession. We don't have that. We're in the opposite situation. So as you pointed out so graphically, we have a declining enrollment situation. At the same time, we're going to have declining revenue from the state. Those two whammies are going to hurt us. The third thing that's going to hurt us is you pointed out in your, when we fall below 30,000 students, at that point, our revenue requirements for reserves will go from a 2% reserve to a 3% reserve. So we'll need to add substantially more set aside in reserves. And by the way, that's reserves we can't touch. So it's money that's set aside that the state requires. And if we touch it, 1 penny of it, we'll have to provide a remedial plan to the county to repay that money before the end of the fiscal year. So that money really isn't available to us. So the amount of money we're going to have available when we hit below 30,000 will actually decrease. Even though reserves will go up, it's reserves we can't touch. It's kind of ironic, but we have that to play with as well, sadly.
Hey, one more quick question for Greg Medici. Your crystal ball, one of those factors for assumptions, budget assumptions, is health costs. Are we seeing or hearing anything yet on that front?
Excellent question, Trustee Mintz. The short answer is not yet, but we anticipate having possibly having some color on that prior to the adoption in June. What we do know is that for the last 2 cycles, we have been very fortunate and basically had 2 rounds of sub 2% increases, which was against kind of the multi-year moving average, not just for us, but the whole industry. So many of our experts, and we work with many, last year said that, and I'm paraphrasing, but that 2 years in a row is probably starting to press our luck about that. This kind of low premium increases are likely to not continue. Now, obviously, all bets are off related to the coronavirus economy. I think, and knock on wood, I think in the Bay Area generally, we've been a pretty healthy place compared to places like New York, but medical services are have components certainly of finance and cost, and I think in places like New York, the average group insurance costs are likely skyrocketing with all of these hospital stays and everything else. So I think there is at least a decent chance for multiple factors that it's unlikely that a 0, 1, or 2% increase is to occur again. And so we are currently anticipating an 8%, possibly an 8% increase in health and welfare for 2021. I will definitely continue to move that. And even with a recent example of last year, we moved the assumption very late in late May, early June, when we found out that we were basically going to have what almost amounted to kind of a rate pass in health and welfare. So we'll bring that same information to the board. Any information we receive, Trustee Mintz and the entire board, we will integrate into the 2021 adopted budget or the 45-day revise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Rachel, we haven't heard from you. And by the way, your audio is off. Yay. Okay.
Thank you. Internet's back up. No, just wanted to say thank you for the informative report, Greg. I'm really glad we have you watching the future for us. And even though you're delivering bad news, we need to look forward, and because that's our jobs. So thank you.
Thank you as well.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're on to 13.1, board member reports. Rachel.
I have one. For the Contra Costa County School Boards Association, we have a meeting scheduled for April 30th, which was supposed to be on the May revise, which wouldn't make much sense to be having that presentation before the May revise, especially with all the changes. So it's been, the topic's been changed to state legislative update and advocacy opportunities. Dennis Myers from CSBA will be the main speaker. Kind of giving us the lay of the land of what they know, what they're following, you know, ahead of the May revise, what they're hearing. And then there'll be a piece on what school board members can be doing with their local electeds in terms of helping them to understand the stresses that we're going through all of this, and what the financial impact, like what Greg was talking about, will mean to us, so that when they are voting for the new budget, they have a very good understanding of that. And then we'll have another meeting on May, I'm sorry, that was April 30th. And then we'll have another meeting on May 21st that will address the May revise, and that will be with Dennis also. So the one on the 30th is at 6:30, and the one on the 21st of May will be at 5:30. They'll both be on Zoom, and you'll be getting a notification invitation to those this week.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay. Mark.
I'll pass this evening.
Okay. Ken.
Yes. San Ramon Mayor Bill Clarkson has transformed his monthly Friday breakfast meeting into a Friday virtual meeting to discuss current status of coronavirus issues in the community. This past Friday, Rick, Rachel, and myself sat on his panel to talk about some of our school issues. So if anyone wants to go back, I believe those are archived on the city's website, and you can go back and listen to that conversation. We took about 15 minutes or so just to give a brief update, because just trying to find as many ways as we can to reach out to the community so people stay aware of status of everything. So appreciate Bill's giving us that opportunity. That's it.
Thank you. Susanna.
Nope, nothing for me.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to make a generalized comment and thank both the staff at the district office, our cabinet, our superintendent and his staff, and every single employee in the district for the phenomenal job that they are doing, the pivoting that they have done in an extraordinary time, trying to make sure that our kids receive, in very difficult situation, the best education possible. And thank you so much. You're all going out of your way. You're all working with a situation that none of us was prepared for, frankly. And we're going to make mistakes, both as individuals and as an organization, as we figure out how to navigate through a very difficult situation. And I just want to thank our employee organizations. I want to thank every member of our staff for basically stepping up and doing the right thing for kids. And we will get through this. That is my ending statement. We will get through this, and we will be stronger for it. And San Ramon Valley is great because our employees are wonderful and put kids first. And I want to thank them for doing it again in very trying times. And with that, if there's nothing else before, superintendent's report, sir.
Thank you for just an opportunity for a brief update. We've celebrated staff tonight. We've honored our parents. We've celebrated kids. But what I want to do is give a shout out to our PTA friends and leaders. Had a very lengthy conversation with Lisa Gross, our council president, yesterday. And tomorrow I'll be in front of all of our PTA presidents, updating them on many topics we've discussed tonight that they have great interest in, and also not only interest in how it impacts them and their families, but how they can help us and move us forward together. Also had a great conversation with Vanessa, our executive director of Ed Fund, yesterday, and I'll be in front of their leadership group, I believe, on April 27th. Of course, both those conversations are virtual, answering questions, suggesting ideas, new ideas on how to partner with our Ed Fund, and really look for feedback from both, and also be able to describe in detail some of our challenges, but also knowing that we are lucky to be in a community, incredible PTA and Ed Fund leadership.
All right, thank you. All right, nothing else before the board. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for our virtual meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Good night.